Hello everyone, I'm Nick Copwood. This video is all about academic publication, particularly thinking about journal publication. It's a top 10 ways to make sure your work is never published or worse, cited. Hopefully you can tell from the title that this is a presentation that I hope is in good humour and maybe teases you a little bit. This is based on two posts on my blog at nickhop.wordpress.com, one about making sure you don't get published and one about making sure your work doesn't get cited. I'm assuming actually you would like to be published and you would like your work to be read and cited. The blog actually has 10 of each, top 10 not to get published and 10 not to get cited. What you've got here is a selective lowlights, 5 of each. You might hear me see on other videos or in workshops or other things. If you're worried about getting rejected in a journal, a publishing process, don't worry at all. It's definitely going to happen one day. If you're going to continue publishing more than once, you may be lucky and your first couple of publications may be accepted. If publishing is something you're going to be doing in the long or medium term, it's going to happen. You're going to be rejected. Happens to all of us. Nobel Prize winners, people like me, I've been rejected heaps of times. I'm not embarrassed about it. So are the best professors in the world. They don't care. Happens to all of us. If you get rejected, you're joining an illustrious club of brilliant researchers who've been rejected. Well, let's get on with it. The first and most secure way of making sure your work never gets published is, of course, never to submit it for review. It's 100% guaranteed to mean your work does not get into journals if you never send it off in the first place. Heaps of good papers, I reckon, are found in drawers or the digital equivalents in people's computers. Papers that have been worked on and have not yet been submitted, so I can't read them. There's zero chance of getting published if you follow this tactic. Why might people do it? Fear of rejection, but I've said there's no need to worry about rejecting. It's almost certainly going to happen to you. Fear of criticism, again, don't worry about it. It's going to happen. It's nothing special about you if you get criticism. Perfectionism, I'll talk about a bit more in a second, and a whole range of other excuses, and they really are excuses. I said I'd talk about perfectionism, and I haven't lied. Here we go. One of the reasons why many publications never see the light of day and don't even become publications is because the authors try to perfect their work first. What a waste of time. You'll never write a perfect text. I never have. I don't know anybody who has. But plenty of imperfect texts still get published. The texts that don't get published are the ones that are sat in your drawer on your computers waiting to be perfected. The fact is, most of the time, the referees in the journal process are going to want to say something about how to improve your paper or want some changes. So they're not going to see it as perfect. So waiting until you or one of your peers sees it as perfect, or giving feedback on you before you submit it, is just a total waste of time. Actually, perfectionism is often other excuses in disguise. Perfectionism is, as I've shown on the picture there, one of the best ways to be your own worst enemy and shoot yourself in your foot. It's not the way to be thinking about publication, I would argue. Number 3, how not to get published. Get EOS, stands for Early Onset Satisfaction. This is Mem Fox's idea, and I got this through Pat Thompson's blog, Patter, which is an amazing blog, and I highly recommend it. I've put here a little picture with a lady with a devil and an angel on her shoulder. Is it the angel or the devil who's telling you you're really, really good? Worth thinking about, I think. So what the causes of early onset satisfaction might be, or what maybe the symptoms. Not redrafting, not seeking critical feedback, asking people who you know are going to stroke you and say, oh yeah, your paper's wonderful, Nick. No, if you're getting feedback before you submit a journal, find the people who you think will be nastiest, maybe. Or at least don't find people and say, yeah, I just want you to tell you what's good. If feedback's going to be useful, it's going to make you change the paper. Avoiding the hard questions, ducking what's going to be difficult. I've heard this said so many times by people. Oh, I'm just going to do a quick and dirty paper. Oh, I've done some, I've got 25 surveys. I'll do a quick and dirty. There's no such thing as quick and dirty. Quick and dirty is just dirty. Chances are it's not going to get through the review process any quicker because it's dirty. Quick and dirty is just dirty. And in academic publishing, at least, I like to keep quite clean. How not to get published, number 4. Collapse under harsh critique. As I said before, there are certainties in life, death and taxes, and in academic research, nasty reviews. It's coming. Here's a real one that a professor from Oxford received, and he's published about it. You may have heard me talk about it in workshops previously. This is a rather dull rehash of familiar ground, lacking insight and originality. We'll merit a B as an MEd essay. Whoa! That's a harsh review. It's going to happen to you one day or the other. I say if you ask for senior professors in your department or people you know and you say, have you ever had a nasty review or something that's been overly critical, and they say no, probably they're either lying to you or they're deluding themselves. Nasty reviews are part and parcel of academic publishing. You're going to get them. What's interesting and what's important is how you respond. If you collapse under harsh critique like this, you're never going to get published. So if you're not willing to be subjected to some critique, don't have dreams of publication, because it's not going to happen. I like this one. Sell the wrong paper. I've done this myself. And somehow, even though I know better, it's curious, sometimes I still manage to do it, or at least reviewers think I've managed to do it. It's a really, really effective way to annoy pretty much everybody in the publication process. Is to lead people to expect one paper and then to give them another. This is maybe you might be writing an abstract, and then as a paper goes on, actually your argument changes. In which case, change the title in the abstract. There used to be an advert in the UK for something called Ron Seal. It was a form of paint, and the guy does exactly what it says on the tin, holding up a big paint can. And I put that there. Paint, if it says paint on the side of the can, you expect to open the can and find paint inside, and the stuff inside should be stuff that paints whatever you want to paint it. That's how your paper should be. Don't piss everybody off by selling the wrong paper. I've, as a reviewer, been asked to review something. I look at the abstract and, oh yeah, that's quite interesting. It's about X and Y. I click yes, I'll review it. I then download the whole paper. Turns out to be nothing about that, and I'm just really, really annoyed. It's a total waste of my time, and I vent my spleen. Well, I vent my spleen at the authors, and then I usually revise my reviews and try and make them a little bit nicer and more constructive. But really, I get pretty annoyed with that. But what if you actually make a huge mistake and submit something for a journal and it gets accepted? Oh no. Maybe people might actually read your work, or even worse, cite it. Well, actually, I'm assuming you want these things to happen. But let's play with the idea that this is the ultimate disaster, that accidentally somehow you're a terrible academic, but you've got something into publication. What you want to make sure is that, of course, nobody actually opens the pages and reads the thing. Genius way to make sure nobody reads your article, even if it's in a really good journal, is give it a truly dreadful title. I think this is an academic skill par excellence. I get the contents alerts in my email address. Out of 100 of the titles of the journal articles, how many of them are actually interesting? Very few. And I'm somebody who's paid to be interested in things. That's part of my job. So you can stop people from even bothering to read the abstract by giving your journal article a really, really dull title. Tell people that if they continue, all they're going to get is boredom or a dull and irrelevant waste of time. Titles make a connection to an ongoing conversation. They give a sense of something new. They avoid jargon, and personally, I'm not particularly keen on puns. There seems to be, at least in my field, some assumption that every title has to have a colon in it if it's going to be an academic title. I don't believe so. I think short, punchy titles can be really good. Connecting to an existing argument, something new. Otherwise, why am I going to bother reading this? Now we can follow up our poor title with a really, really dreadful abstract. Now my go-to people for abstract writing, those of you who know me will know this already, Barbara Kamler and Pat Thompson. They call abstracts tiny texts. The reference is here. It's from Helping Doctoral Students Write, a book they published with Routledge. They're really hard to write, good abstracts, but well worth the effort. Poor abstracts, and this is me kind of flipping Barbara and Pat's idea and thinking about, well, good abstracts do this, so bad ones must do this. They don't locate a paper in a bigger picture about something which people care about. They don't give a clear and specific focus for a study. If this is a big picture, what is it that you're addressing that relates to that big picture? A good abstract or a bad abstract fails to report what was done and found and how the analysis was done, if that's relevant. And often, and this is what's most often missing, particularly the locate and then this last one, the argue, bad abstracts are very, very good at not arguing what's new and why we should care, or any implications. They leave it to readers to assume that something that's been found is new. Maybe I think, well, what you found has been found before. So, a really, really poorly written abstract can do what I've shown on the picture there on that signpost. Leave readers with no sense of where the paper is going. As a busy person, even though it's part of my job to read things, I triage what I'm going to read, and if I look at the title and unlikely enough it's interesting to me, or even if it's a dull title, I think I really should read it just because of the content, I then look at the abstract. If I've got no sense of where it's going, the chances of it actually, in my busy schedule, being read beyond that, slim. Number 8. This is a wonderful way to make sure your paper doesn't get cited, or at least that people don't understand what it is you have to say. And this is to hide your arguments in waffle. Your readers are not stupid, but they are often time poor, and nobody ever said, wow, that paper was too clear. I think your readers will need it spelling out for them. I would like to encourage people to put their arguments in like bright flashing lights. A phrase like, what is new here that's never been seen before, or how this advances knowledge is, or this differs from our existing understanding because. That's what I mean by flashing lights. What people who like to bury their ideas in waffle successfully do is manage to never start paragraphs by announcing a key idea. Just blurb into something. They fail to remind readers of key points. They fail to be explicit. What is new here is. If you want to waffle, don't do that kind of thing. And, oh, did I mention reinforcement? Reinforcing key ideas, reminding readers there's nothing wrong with that. If you're interested in this, I think there's a great book called They Say, I Say by Graf and Birkenstein. It's targeted at undergraduate writers. I refer to it all the time. And they have a lot of this thing called meta text, which is things you can use to lift your key arguments out of your text. Take the waffles out. I like waffles, not in a context of a journal article. So, if your argument and contribution are there to be seen, make them visible. Or, if you don't want anybody ever to cite your paper, by all means, go ahead and bury them under waffle. We're nearly finished now. Number 9. Make no worthwhile argument at all. This is kind of even worse than burying a good argument in waffle. At least if there's a good argument, a really diligent reader might be able to figure out where it is. But why don't you try making no argument at all? It happens. Peer review is not a flawless process. Sometimes papers that make no argument get in there. You might just sort of, this is what happened to me as an undergraduate. You'd be asked to discuss something and you basically come to the conclusion that therefore it could be seen that to a certain extent the statement is true. Yawn. Boring. Who cares? Okay. Now, why do people make no argument or no worthwhile argument? Well, sometimes we get worried that we're overclaiming. So we're worried that the referees will tell us we can't justify saying a certain thing. So we rein back in our conclusions. If I read a paper and it has a good title, and an interesting abstract, and I go through it, if I then get to the end and there's basically not much of a conclusion, that's maybe an hour of my time that I can't get back. You've stolen that from me as a writer of that paper. I was expecting something new here. I read things because I can't read them somewhere else and I don't already know what's in that paper. That's the point. I'm reading things to try and learn something new, something significant and new and exciting and interesting. And if you're lucky enough to sell the right paper and then with a good title and the abstract seems like it's going to deliver and you do a nice little study and then at the end of the day you underclaim because you're scared of being too bold, you've been a complete waste of my time. Not only will I forget everything you had to say, but I'll be really annoyed with you, and the chances of me reading your paper again if I see your name on another article, right down there. Low, low, way low. So, why don't you just do the opposite? Overclaim. Now, this is another way to make me think, you're useless. Unsubstantiated conclusions and rampant speculation. Now, this happens, I guess, it's a kind of related to the extension of early onset satisfaction. This is the conclusions that readers, well, thank you for my Nobel Prize based on just one paper on a small-scale qualitative study of blah, 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 blah. Now, you may be thinking that a journal paper isn't worth its salt unless you cure cancer or eliminate all global injustice or find the solution to the problem of climate change or finally resolve an argument that's been going on for decades or centuries or millennia. Ain't going to happen. Journal articles actually make relatively modest contributions. Underclaiming, point number 9, not acceptable. Overclaiming, not acceptable either. Either of those things just annoy me. I get in a bad mood with the authors and I think, nah, not going to cite this. Why would I cite it? If A, it's got nothing to say because there's nothing to cite, that's number 9. And why would I cite it if the conclusions are totally unsubstantiated? Number 10. So, thank you for your time. I hope you've experienced this in the good-humoured way that I intend it. It is intended to be a little bit provocative, maybe. If you disagree, please feel free to air your disagreements either on the blog, nickhop.wordpress.com, follow my Twitter handle and comment there at nhoputs, or in the spaces below this on YouTube. I hope this has been a bit of fun for you. I'm very glad to say again, rejection is inevitable. It happens to me all the time. Being good at publishing is not about avoiding rejection. Being good at publishing is not about only getting minor revisions when you send stuff out for academic review. Being good at publishing in academia is about knowing that rejection is going to happen, knowing that critical comments are going to come, nasty ones, and being resilient in the face of those. That's how you become a successful publisher in academia, not avoiding those things in the first place, because believe me, they're coming. Bye-bye.